And then uh, and, in the second chapter, Sanjaya says that Krishna started counseling Arjuna, and he describes about difference between the knowledge of the body and the soul, and then he gives about how to perform the duty, and he says about no, it's a second chapter is a summary of Bhagavad Gita. So Buddhi Yoga, Nishkama Karma Yoga, and finally he says be a Sita Prajna. And at the end he says like Krishna tells Arjuna, keep all the abominable things away by the knowledge of Bhakti Yoga, like Buddhi Yoga. So Buddhi Yoga means involves the knowledge. So then Arjuna asks, now what is better? Is action or renunciation is better? Because when we involve in action, we may be attached to, we may have to get attached to so many things. But in the renunciation, we may not be dealing with so many sense objects, but uh, yeah, no, in the renounced order, like we will not be engaged with so many sense objects, but he's Arjuna gets a little bit doubtful because Krishna is asking me to engage because I am planning to renounce this war and go to forest and do take sannyasa, and then Krishna is asking me to fight this war. Hmm? So, and he says, so what is best, which is like a this karma, mean like karma kanda or renunciation. So, uh, and Krishna says, performing Krishna presents the transcendental knowledge. Like, Krishna says about Nishkama Karma Yoga and performing the activities without, with renunciation, with the knowledge of bhakti. And then, like at the end of this third chapter, Krishna says about the lust, keep the lust away. And for that, Krishna, uh, at that point of time, in order to do that, Krishna describes about the transcendental knowledge, how this transcendental knowledge came about, how it came in disciplic succession, mm, and like one should not, you know, uh, one should use spiritual intelligence to uh, keep the lust away. And after the after the chapter is complete, Krishna presents about the knowledge, transcendental knowledge, which one, like by which one can keep the lust away. And at the fourth chapter, Krishna explains about the transcendental knowledge. Sorry, I'm getting confused here. Third chapter is Karma Yoga. Fourth chapter is transcendental knowledge. And Krishna speaks about attaining the peace by jnana. And he explains about karma, action in Krishna consciousness. Now karma yoga again. And then he finally explains, like at the end of fifth chapter, Krishna says, be a yogi, and Krishna says, Arjuna asks which is better. Again, he asks like renunciation or renunciation, sannyasa or action, karma yoga. Is karma yoga better or Ashtanga yoga better? Krishna says both are better, but karma yoga is much easier, and same result can be attained by the both process. So, and he describes about the Ashtanga yoga in the sixth chapter, and he describes all the qualities of yogi in the sixth chapter. And at the end of sixth chapter, Krishna says Bhakti yoga is the topmost, and be a Bhakti yogi. And that's how uh, we enter into sixth chapter. Uh, after the sixth chapter, uh, like next seventh to 12th chapter deals with Bhakti yoga process. So right now today we'll cover up from third chapter because we covered up to until second chapter last time. So this chapter is divided into five sections. So first in the first section, Krishna compares the renunciation or work, and then he explains about Nishkama Karma Yoga, and then how one should transcend, like while performing work, how one should like change the consciousness which is the work from karma kanda to karma yoga. We already discussed, right? What is the difference between karma kanda or gnana or mundane gnana or anything, and karma yoga, gnana yoga. When it comes to yoga, then it has a tinge of bhakti. So, and like in the fourth section, Krishna describes about Nishkama Karma to set an example, because even though Arjuna is qualified for renunciation, even for the renounced order of life, Krishna advises Arjuna to work to set an example because he is in the leadership role. Mm. And and at the end of the chapter, he says about lust, and which is the enemy for the karma yogi. Mm. So it is, lust is not only enemy for anybody, karma yogi, but also for everybody. So Krishna says to keep the abominable activities at the 2.49, like at the end of second chapter. So and means keep away the abominable activities, means, so which what are abominable activities? Arjuna gets confused. Krishna is saying keep away the activity. Mm. He's asking me to keep away all the activities, because he's not he's confused, because yeah, when it comes to activity, there is karma kanda activity and karma yoga activity. So uh, so here when he says your Arjuna says to Krishna, you are equivocal, means you are sounding like similar on both ways, because I asked which is better. I wanted to renounce, and you said don't renounce but perform activity, and now you are saying keep all the activities which abominable activities away. And Krishna Arjuna considered this war is also an abominable activity. So he asked about this again, this question, like which is better, action or renunciation. And Krishna for that he explains here. So it will be like too fast, no?
No,
So
Prabhuji, it's
you're fine, right?
yeah,
I'm,
yeah,
I,
yes,
I
Prabhuji.
feel that I'm going too fast because every point needs a lot of explanation, nice understanding, but we are only giving the overview. I'm
Yes,
just
yes,
going fast, okay?
yes, Prabhuji. Yeah, we are following you, Prabhuji. If any
So
questions, we'll ask.
yeah, at the end you can ask, okay? You can
Yes,
note down and at the end you can ask, okay?
yes, yes.
In other words, like here Krishna says work in Krishna conscious way. Yeah? So Krishna conscious person is not a lazy thing. No, we should work, but not work for our sense gratification, but work for Krishna. So that's how, like when Krishna says keep abominable activities, means working for the sense gratification, that is called abominable. There are different levels of karma kandic activities. So in the pious, so-called pious activities are also called self-centered activities. That you may not be outwardly that the pious people may pose that as if they are very they are what you call philanthropic and something like that, but internally their motto is for something else. No, because I have the ability, I can help others, I can save others, and like that. But that is also required, but that can be done in a proper manner by performing the same activity in a Krishna conscious person, Krishna conscious way. So there here Krishna explains in 3.3 to 3.9 about Nishkama Karma Yoga. Nishkama Karma Yoga means is meant for self-realization and self-purification. So the nature of soul is always active. It is always performing some activity. So rather than giving up the activity, we should actually just purify our activity, and by purifying our activity, we can purify ourselves, our consciousness also. So application of Nishkama Karma Yoga is liberation or bondage is not determined by one's activity, but by the consciousness performed by those activities. But renouncing this activity without proper training and purification will lead to destruction in the path of spiritual advancement. So in order to practice renunciation, one should be properly eligible, properly trained. Otherwise, it will lead to no success, and also it will not counteract the sinful reactions. So then there is one more thing like about Sankhya Yoga. Sankhya Yoga means deals with philosophical speculation. Sankhya Yoga deals with an neti neti concept, means like divide all the things, five elements, five senses, five sense objects, like that, all the elements, and then classify which is the ultimate goal, and then you what do you call, what they say it, elimination process. No, there is a term for that. So you take this. Is this the goal of life? Is the highest thing that needs to be achieved? Is it the perfect? Then you test it, and if it fails, then you keep it aside. So that is that is Sankhya. Means it's a numbering process. So, but Buddhi Yoga or direct Krishna conscious is dependent on the mercy of Krishna, means the Bhakti Yoga process. So Bhakti Yoga process is directly dependent on Krishna. So ultimate goal is Krishna in both the process. Even if he takes process of renunciation or the process of Karma Yoga, the ultimate goal is Krishna. So, but Sankhya Yoga is indirect path and Bhakti Yoga is direct path. Sankhya Yoga process depends on mostly in the personal endeavor. No? If a person performs Sankhya Yoga process 99% correctly, and 1% he lack, and in the next life he may have to start all over again. But in the Bhakti Yoga process, it is, since it is the nature of the soul, it is carried forward, and it is the Sankhya Yoga process is unsure of success, because after going forward through this elimination process, means through the process of renunciation, one may need some kind of things, some material objects also for the maintenance of one's body and spirit. But in the this process of renunciation, uh, by eliminating everything, it may lead to bewilderment. But Bhakti Yoga process, as it is, Krishna assures that Bhakti Yogi never fails, and whatever advancement he made in this life will be carried forward in the next life. The Bhakti Yogi will start in the next life from the point where he left in the previous life, and the initial purification required now for the this process of Sankhya Yoga, or philosophical speculation. But in the Bhakti Yoga, there is no like the process and the ends, means and the ends are the same. Means like in order to get purified, you perform bhakti, and after getting purified, what you do is also bhakti. So means and ends are the same. It means when a person starts Bhakti Yoga process, the goal is already reached. So premature renunciation carries no benefit. No? So as I already discussed, sannyasa without purification, like I already said that, right? And Sankhya Yoga is impractical, because soul is always active, and one cannot completely refrain from the duty. And ultimate sannyas is now there are a lot of examples in the scriptures that how as accomplished yogis fell down, like and also uh, they mostly if they are not in a perfect platform, they will end up in cheating process. A sincere house, householder of a bhakti yoga process is better than a this like a householder who sincerely follows this process of Krishna consciousness by following Guru Sadhu Shastra. He is much advanced than a person who is performing this process of yoga process. No, this and because due because of his guidance and because of this proper engagement in the activity in which he is performing. So we'll go fast. Okay. Purpose of sacrifice is to Vishnu. Okay. When karma yoga process involves performing sacrifice, you know, it says work done as sacrifice Vishnu liberates one from the bondage. Okay. So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, right? One should perform the sacrifice. Sacrifice means karma, mm, for the pleasure of Vishnu, sacrifice to Vishnu. And this Varnashrama process, this okay. Now this when we see there are four varnas that exist in the humankind, like brahmachari, vanaprastha, grihastha, sannyasa. So this Varnashrama institution is to please Vishnu. And how to perform this karma yoga process in a Krishna conscious way, we take guidance from Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. So what is the advantage of this Krishna conscious process over the impractical yogic process? Is akarma. It is not does not comes under uh, vikarma or karma. It comes under akarma. Akarma means it is not a, it won't bear any sinful it won't bear any reactions, either good or bad. Mm. And this process, through this process, while performing, one is already in a liberated state. Mm. And while performing, one is already liberated state, but at the end you will achieve the love of God, and attain the kingdom of God. That is the best advantage. And it is said in Krishna says that one who attains the kingdom of God, one who goes back to Godhead, he will never return to this material world. So as I said, one should uh, uh, transform the consciousness with which they work, so that the karma kanda will become as karma yoga. So if the same activity with proper consciousness is performed, or proper Krishna consciousness is performed, then it will become karma kandic activity will become karma yoga. The same job, same same activity that we perform, maintaining a house, going for a job, going for shopping, all these activities, the same. These are karma kanda activities. But when they are performed with the proper consciousness, they transform into karma yoga. And it is also explained, he also explains about the yajna process, because uh, yajna process is something which is not practical now, because nobody is doing any yajna, like uh, no, not for like Vedic yajnas, uh, but the one more yajna what we can do is Harinam, like a Sankirtan yajna, which is more practical. So why Krishna says perform yajna to satisfy demigods, and so that they will give all material benedictions, and also Vishnu is pleased by performing yajna. But in this age of Kali, we can perform Harinam, like Sankirtan yajna. Okay, this also talks about Sankirtan yajna only. And then this process of sacrifice in Vedas, like how it is said, right? One performs prescribed duty. Prescribed duties involves performing yajnas, and depends on, and by performing yajna, rains are produced. By rains, food is produced. And by food, all the living entities are subside, and then offering goes to Supreme Lord, and then Supreme Lord, like it comes from the Vedas. So it's like kind of cyclic reaction that Krishna describes in the uh, Bhagavad Gita also. No? How every activity goes around, means how when we perform yajnas and offer stuff to demigods, and demigods are satisfied. They give material benefaction, and everything is done for the pleasure of Supreme Lord, as he said in the Vedic process, which is prescribed in the Vedas. So, but some people may say, they say like, no, work very hard and enjoy sense gratification. No, you are entitled for the enjoyment because you are the performer. That's how some materialistic people say. But this against the karma yoga process. Karma yoga process deals with performing the fruits of activity to Krishna. So the purpose of human life is to please the Supreme Lord. Uh, so best process is annular devotion service that will come later. So best yajna is Sankirtan yajna by chanting the holy name of Krishna, like that. And best mantra is chanting Hare Krishna mantra. Nature's law for human life. Human life is specially meant for self-realization, either by karma yoga, jnana yoga, or bhakti yoga. So, and also after that, Krishna says about Nishkama Karma Yoga, and he advises Arjuna perform Nishkama Karma Yoga, means perform your activity without attachment to the result, and also to set example for the ordinary beings, because Arjuna was in the leadership position, like everybody, like Krishna says that what a leader does, the common man follows. So, and also Krishna advises, like, demigods, there is no need of a demigod worship, like and also performing Vedas give sacrifice to satisfy the demigod to achieve the material supplies. So this process of worshipping demigods, Krishna, you're following, right? I'm little bit not sure if I'm.
No, Prabhuji. Yeah, it's good, Prabhuji. You keep on
Yes,
going.
Prabhuji.
You're
Any
following,
question?
right? I feel like I'm going too fast.
No,
Yeah,
Prabhuji.
that's how the overview, Prabhuji, because
Okay,
it's a quick
if you're sad,
overview.
that's fine.
Yeah.
Because I'm not satisfied from within, but I'm just going through because you have to complete it. So okay, and if anything, you just note it down and we can discuss at the end. Okay.
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes.
So the Krishna says previously describes about how you should satisfy demigods and perform your activity, and then says, but in our Bhakti Yoga process, this is all not required. We just perform Sankirtan Yajna, which satisfies everybody. Vedic things are mainly uh, aimed at dharma, artha, kama, moksha, but Krishna says we have to go beyond all those things to attain the perfection of life. So then this already we discussed. I think some slides are repeated. And at the end of the chapter, Krishna says, for any yogi, this lust, the conquer this ultimate enemy lust. So then this will links. Then Arjuna asked Arjuna says, like, sometimes we engage in activities even though we don't want to. Is it what is that force which compels us, which helplessly engages the living entities to perform such abominable activities? So and Krishna, he actually, Arjuna, like it says, like, what is that force? Is it super soul? Something like that he asks. So in order to explain that, Krishna explains about the nature of the soul. Original nature of living entity is part and parcel of Supreme Personality of Godhead. Means it is one in quality with Supreme Lord. Therefore, it is not subject to any sins of material world. But when it come into contact with material elements, it will get contaminated. And then it will not hesitate to perform any sinful activity. So lust is the force that which impels one to act sinfully. You know, like Krishna, Arjuna asked, right? What is the force that impels the living entity to perform the abominable activities? The lust. So about lust, what Krishna says, it is born of mode of passion and changes into wrath when unfulfilled, and then forces us to act sinfully, and it is the greatest enemy. Now, like in the previous chapter we discussed, right, how attachment from attachment, this what is called, from from lust anger develops. When lust is there, lust leads to attachment, attachment leads to anger when it is unfulfilled, and anger leads to bewilderment, and bewilderment leads to loss of intelligence, and loss of intelligence leads to fall down. So that is how the what is called, this cycle repeats. So it says like lust has its origin in transcendence, means like we are saying lust, this lust, how come we got this lust? Like Arjuna asked, right, it is something within, it is not which is coming from outside. When we see sense object, our senses automatically get attracted, or we sometimes they are they impel us to perform sinful activities. We know within the core of our heart what we are doing is wrong, but still we go out and do that because it is due to misidentification. Bhagavad Gita, it is said that, no, in the scriptures, not in Bhagavad Gita, it has its origins in the transcendence, means in the spiritual world, because in the spiritual world we are accustomed to satisfying our with we are accustomed to satisfying Krishna senses. But when you come to material world, by jiva coming in contact with the material world, it tries to satisfy the senses by contacting sense objects only. Yeah, but there is no Krishna in that. So this due to this misidentification, this something which is related to Krishna is love, and this love, when it comes to the material thing, it transforms into lust, and that will impel us to perform the sinful activities. So this purpose of this material world is to give a chance for the living entity to transform himself and to bring themselves from this stage of materialistic lust into the devotional love towards Krishna. So origin of the lust is discussed, is lust and wrath is spiritualized. So by engaging everything in Krishna's service, by desiring everything for Krishna, then everything is, even the lust is transformed into love. So, and Krishna describes how this lust is characterized into 3 different degrees. Fire covered by the smoke, and mirror covered by the dust, and embryo covered by the womb. Now these 3 stages describes 3 different levels. Fire covered by the smoke is at the beginning, means smoke and fire is covered by the smoke, but smoke and fire are not very much actually covered. Mirror covered by the dust, means it is little bit more worse. And the embryo covered by the womb is a most like what is called most worst situation. So smoke covered by the fire analysis will be for the human beings, mirror covered by the dust will be for the birds and beasts, and embryo covered by the womb, who is like can be given for the living entities like trees. Their consciousness is fully covered. Like to say practically, do we feel that trees have lust? Like, but it is, but as per this analogy, it is saying that these trees are the most lusty thing, because due to lack of their Krishna conscious activity. When we think lust as kama only, means desiring for sense gratification, it is not like that. How much lacking we are in Krishna consciousness defines the degree of our lust. Clear, right?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes.
So how to conquer this lust? So by knowing the sitting places, senses, intelligence, and mind. So mind is the center of sense activities, and intelligence and mind. By engaging the mind, by senses, by keeping Krishna conscious activity, by keeping our senses busy in the Krishna conscious activity, because senses are the senses are the one who uh, who actually influences the mind. Means they are the information carriers for the mind. By performing Krishna conscious activities and properly using our intelligence to perform Krishna conscious activities, then that will gradually transform the mind, and mind can become free from the lust. So Krishna says by jnana means theoretical knowledge. Vijnana means practical application knowledge, where one implements the knowledge that he has learned. So Krishna consciousness activities protect our consciousness from getting lost to the lust. Okay, so this working senses, mind, intelligence, and everything can be uh, protected by engaging in by engaging ourselves in Krishna conscious activities. So solution to the whole problem is to the constitution of soul and engage it in direct connection to Krishna conscious activity. So actually when we say Krishna conscious activity, it is referring to the karma, means karma yoga, because we are performing that karma for Krishna's service. That's why it becomes karma yoga. So by that is when we perform it for Krishna service, it is nishkama, means it is not for our pleasure, it is for the pleasure of Krishna. That's how it becomes nishkama karma yoga. So that's how, even though our bhakti yoga comes later in the later chapters, but when it karma portion comes, still we are discussing about this uh, Krishna conscious activity. So then at the end of the chapter, Krishna gives this transcendental knowledge. Like Krishna says about spiritual intelligence, and this spiritual intelligence is given through the transcendental knowledge. Means like by how like at the end we said, right, we can engage our senses in Krishna conscious activities, and for that we have to use our intelligence. For to have that spiritual intelligence, we need to have that proper knowledge, the transcendental knowledge, and that transcendental knowledge is given at
Prabhuji,
the
Prabhuji,
yes.
sorry, Prabhuji. When you are saying transcendental knowledge is nothing but this is a Jnana Yoga, Prabhuji, fourth
Yeah,
chapter.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, right.
So Krishna says, right, like first one should you can engage your senses in karma yoga through Krishna conscious activity. For that, you have to counteract your enemy lust, and this lust is sitting in mind, intelligence, and ego. Mind, intelligence, and senses. So for one to perform Krishna conscious activities, he has to engage his senses in Krishna's service, only for Krishna's service. For that, he has to use his intelligence, and this intelligence comes through the Krishna conscious knowledge. So for that, he is giving this transcendental knowledge, means like how to understand Krishna, how this transcendent knowledge is coming. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, in the beginning of the universe, I gave this knowledge, to Vivaswan, and from Vivaswan to Manu, and this transcendent knowledge came in disciplic line of succession. But in due course of time, this lineage appears to be lost. That's why I'm giving it to you again. And And he says about whoever understands Janma Karma Chame Divyam, whoever understands my birth and activities are divine, they will not take birth again. So if you want to engage in Krishna service, we should convince our mind using our intelligence. For that, we should have Krishna conscious knowledge. So we have to see how Krishna's activities are special, how Krishna's activities are beneficial for our and for everybody's good benefit. Means Krishna says, right, Suhrudam Sarvabhutanam, how Krishna is well-wisher of everybody. So Krishna says little bit about, no, in the previous chapter Krishna says that to perform yajna to satisfy demigods, like that, right? But in this chapter he is giving that no less intelligent persons will worship demigods, but you don't have to worship demigods, you directly perform Krishna conscious activity, then you will attain perfection. And he also says about Krishna created this varnashram dharma, and so that they can act in the three modes, like Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra. Brahmanas are mostly in the mode of goodness, and Vaishyas and Kshatriyas are mostly in passion, and Sudras are mostly in the mode of ignorance. So based on their natures, Krishna has divided them, and he has given the plan, like how one should serve. Kshatriyas should take the guidance from Brahmanas, and Vaishyas should serve Kshatriyas and Brahmanas, and Sudras are all the other three classes, above three classes, and Shudra should be taken care by their masters. So what is karma, akarma and vikarma? That is already discussed. Laws of karma are difficult to understand. So previously we discussed, right, akarma is nothing but the Krishna conscious activity. Vikarma is something good and akarma is something bad. Bad reaction, good reaction, and no reaction. So what is the advantage of performing action with full knowledge? Just reactions are burnt by this knowledge. Krishna says, right, by this by performing activities with this transcendental knowledge, the reactions are burnt. So sakama karma will generate positive reaction, vikarma generates negative reaction, and akarma or devotional karma generates no reactions. So for this one should know what is sakarma, what is vikarma, what is akarma. So for that you need to have spiritual intelligence. No? So inaction can be like even the beggars. Inaction means not doing anything. So there are two types of personalities. The beggars don't do any work, and also sadhus don't do any work. And if beggars pretend to be sadhus, and then it is false renunciation. No? Like but at the same time one should not categorize sadhus as beggars, because sadhus work for the well-being of everyone. So, and who is a sage, who is not affected by sinful reactions, no attachment, no fruitive action, ever satisfied and independent, and mind and intelligence fully controlled, no sense of proprietorship. He has no material motives, he only works for the benefit of everybody. And what is yajna? Yajna is what is the advantage of acquiring knowledge from Guru? No more falling into illusion. Okay. So we all discussed, right, how if one performs this akarma, then this knowledge will burn all sinful reactions. By performing the activities within the guidance of Guru and sadhus, they will be situated in akarma platform. So reaction of cycle. So how this reaction takes place? First, bijam means bijam, phalonmukam, kutam. This is a cycle of karma. Aprarabdha karma, manifested reaction, prarabdha karma, aprarabdha karma, unmanifested reaction, and prarabdha karma means manifested reaction. So, let us start from here, okay? Like kuta means dormant endeavor means we perform some sinful activities. This is dormant in our nature. Then the seeds of that sinful activities are sowed, and uh, they are prone to fructify. So until they are in this stage, uh, until kutam dormant stage and bm, it is called aprarabdha karma. But when it is about to be then when it is about to be fructified, it is called prarabdha karma, means the karma that is destined. You are able to understand, right? So when our tendency is there, and our tendency will sow the seeds of the sinful to perform the sinful activity, and we perform the sinful activities, then that reaction for the sinful activity will fructify. So until the fructification comes, we will not be able to observe that some reaction is coming to us. Yeah, but the process of bhakti yoga, like when one performs the what do you call this akarma activity or bhakti activity with proper knowledge, it can eradicate the karmic reaction in any stage. So how to situate in self, acting in devotional service, renouncing the fruits of action, and doubtlessly fixed in transcendental knowledge. Mm. So just by performing this activity with full conviction, one can be able to achieve that transcendental stage. So here, after the end of the 4th chapter, so again, uh, like Krishna asked Arjuna asked same question. Now Arjuna asked difference between karma yoga and renunciation. Is karma yoga better or dhyana yoga better? And Krishna says, no, both are the same. Means like both karma yoga and dhyana yoga, they lead the same to the same result. But karma yoga is very easy process. So Krishna gives the example, like in the by performing this karma yoga, no, this bhakti process, karma yoga process. One will be like leaf on that water on the lotus leaf, which is untouched, because even though you are performing karma, but you are not touched by the reactions of your activity. And he explains. He explains about an intelligent person does not take part in the source of misery, which is due to the contact of material senses. Such pleasures have the beginning and end. So wise does not take delight in them. No, like the enjoying karma is like chewing the chewed. We perform karma and we enjoy it, and then again we perform karma, again we enjoy it. So and then we get reactions for that. We bear that reaction, like that. So pleasure levels on the senses. This pleasure level is on the level of mind, intelligence, and pleasure level of on false ego, and pleasure level even on the level of soul. Mm. So these pleasures from the material contamination are flickering, stale, illusory, and risky, and addictive. Mm. Just like we saw, right, that by chewing the bubble gum, he yeah, this is very stale. That like when we enjoy the karma process, if you take any material pleasure, in the beginning it will be so exciting, but after a few days or after some time it will be very stale, and it is very flickering, very temporary, and it is illusory, and the risk of harmful reactions and it is addictive. A person, even though he realizes that there is no pleasure in that materialistic activity, but still he is so addicted that he keeps performing that activity again and again, means chewing the chewed. So one should when one focuses on liberation, so what is liberation and how to attain it is by performing the process of bhakti yoga. Sanketa will discuss about it later. We already discussed about how one should focus on the process of devotion. And in the chapter 6 Dhyana Yoga, Krishna describes how like a Dhyana Yoga is performed. So he, when Krishna asked about this, which is better, Dhyana Yoga or Karma Yoga, he briefly again describes about Karma Yoga, and then he starts in detail describes about Dhyana Yoga. So there are two types of unattached to the fruits of work is obliged. Work as he is obliged. The fruits. So what is renounced order of life means? He is unattached to the fruits of fruits, and he works only as if he is obliged, means he performs the work as if it is a duty. So it is in Shikshastakam, it is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that, right? Nadanam Najanam na Sundarim, means he does not want anything but only bhakti. So in the yoga process, there are two main categories, Yoga Ruruksha and Yoga Ruda. In the Yoga Ruruksha is a neophyte stage, means like first four principles, Yama, Niyama, Yama, Niyama, Pranayama, like that, right? And then Yoga Ruda stage is Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi, like that. So Yama, Niyama, I'm missing something there. Yama, so there, like, there are 8 steps of yogic process. That starts. Yama means what needs to be avoided. Niyama means what needs to be followed. Yama, Niyama. Let me refer one. Give me a minute. I didn't get a chance to refer today. So it says Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama. These are the 4 things that belongs to Yoga Ruruksha stage. And Yoga Ruda stage involves Pratyahara, means withdrawing the senses from the sense object. Dharana means fixing the mind on the Lord's form. Dhyana means intensely meditating on the Lord. And Samadhi, completely absorbed in the trance. So these are the 8 stages of yoga process. So in all the stages, the sadhaka will be strictly following the rules and regulations, and he first Yama Niyama, first he controls the mind and senses by Yama Niyama process. Then he controls the physical senses by Asana, and then he Asana, and then he controls the mind by Pranayama. And then he focuses on Pratyahara, means withdrawing the senses from the sense object. And Dharana means fixes the mind on the form of the Lord. And Dhyana means completely absorbed in meditation on the form of the Lord. And then Samadhi, the stage where yogi can at all time be completely absorbed in trance on the Lord's form. So for this process, the mind control is the key, and Krishna says the mind is the best enemy for one who has controlled it, and mind is the worst enemy for who is not able to control it. So he also describes about the qualities of a yogi. He sees everything as same and stone. He sees friends and enemies on the same equal level. works in relationship with Krishna, free from desire and possessive possessiveness, controls mind and lives in seclusion. So to perform this Ashtanga Yoga, one should go to forest and sit in seclusion, no, and no yama niyama, and then asana, sit in seclusion, practice yoga to perform pratyahara, and focus on the tip of the nose. That will improve your pratyahara afterwards. What is it? Dharana. And then after that, constantly meditate on the form of the Lord, and then samadhi will be attained. But it is a very risky process. It involves great amount of endeavor, but it is very impractical in this age of Kali, because there is no place which is it is so much of pollution, so much of deviations. So it is difficult for a Kali Yuga mind to attain such a level of perfection. I think these slides are getting repeated. So the how to practice Ashtanga Yoga after enjoying in heaven that Jiva. So if one fails, whoever is practicing this Ashtanga Yoga or any yogic process, whoever fails, then he will be promoted to heaven, and after enjoying the heaven, that Jiva takes place in a rich, rich and uh, nice cultured family, and a devotee family, and then from there he continues his process again. So the 6 enemies of the mind are Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Mada, Matsara. So one has to be very careful in handling all these things, in controlling the mind. 5 senses are like 5 horses, mind is like a reins, and intelligence is like a driver, and soul is like a person sitting on the chariot. So this analogy perfectly suits in the case of Krishna and Arjuna, where Arjuna represents the soul and entire thing intelligence, because Krishna kept the Arjuna kept Krishna on the position of intelligence, means he kept his intelligence is completely focused on Krishna. So that's how Krishna, we will not be able to control this our senses, so that we can be free from all these vices, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Mada and Matsara. But Krishna can easily be able to control these uncontrolled senses, like which are like uncontrolled horses, so that, and we can reach the destination without fail. So that's how Krishna says Yoginam at the end of this chapter. Krishna says Yoginam api sarvesha madgata antaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yamam same yukta tamo mataha. Means Krishna says among all yogis, he who is always meditating on me, yogi madgata antaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yamam, always who performs devotion to me is the best among all the yogis. So that's how this chapter ends. Only Krishna only Krishna who knows the past and future can dispel Arjuna's doubt. What is the Krishna has to play? One who does good or will not. They are repeating. So that is the complete revision of 6 chapters. Does it make any sense to you both, Prabhu? I felt like I'm like too
No,
fast.
Prabhuji, no. It is really good, Prabhuji. All the things, whatever you have put up, no, Prabhuji. It's like It's really good, Prabhuji. We understand, one step by step by step. So even if we glance at it once, right? So we'll come to know, easily what is what and things like that. And to understand it is very, very easy.
Yeah, actually, I didn't get a chance to arrange all these slides properly, but I will make them nicely and then send it to you. You can revise it, and you have any questions today, you can discuss, and then.
Yes, Prabhuji. Yeah. Actually, I have Prabhuji.
Yeah,
Prabhuji,
good.
you said lust. Okay, lust, Prabhuji. See, kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsara, the ego and all, Prabhuji, that is in everyday's life. Even when we say devotee, Prabhuji, we say it's very easy to say, I'm devotee of the Lord. I perform these devotional services and all. But Prabhuji, how to escape from these things, Prabhuji? Even though when I'm performing devotional service, see, suppose a grahastha who's attracted to his other half, to his wife, and when he he keeps a physical relationship. That is because of karma only, no, Prabhuji.
No.
Right?
Krishna says, I am the lust which is not contrary to the religious principles. You understood, right?
No,
Krishna says in the Vishwarupa, universal description, I think Krishna says, I am the lust which is not contrary to the religious principles. Means you being attached to any woman other than your married wife is irreligious, means it is against dharma, it is abominable. But being attached to a being attached in a sense that is permission given by Krishna, but one should not make it in such a way that one deviates from Krishna conscious path due to that attachment. Then it will become it is also become dangerous attachment. You understand what I'm saying, right?
Yes,
a person being attached to his wife is acceptable, but it should not take one away from Krishna conscious activity.
Yes,
No, if one is until one is one is in one is attached to no, I should not say a wife or something like that, but even for the Mata is also being attached to Prabhus, or Prabhu is also being attached to Mata is, if one is in such a level that that attachment, due to that attachment, they are getting away, carried away from Krishna conscious path, then one should understand that it is Maya. But as long as one engages that family, one becomes attached, thinking that they are servants of Krishna, they are kept in my protection, and it is my duty to give protection both emotionally, physically, mentally, and in all respects, and serve them in that way. If one is attached, then it is properly then they are properly situated, because they will, as I said that it is not the work you do, but it is the consciousness of it is the consciousness which you work determines the results.
Yes.
So Arjuna might go ahead and kill everybody. If he thinks that I am killing for myself, then he will get the reaction. But if he thinks that I am killing for dharma, I am killing for the sake of Krishna, then he does not get any reaction.
Yes, Prabhu. But when he kills, right? When he kills, that time he has to get that angry, right? See, if he is in angry mode, that only.
Otherwise, that's what Prabhupada says, right? Unless he is angry, how can he kill? So he is using his anger in Krishna's service. Then that anger is also spiritualized. So Hanumanji went to get Sita, and out of anger he burnt all Lanka. But Hanumanji is considered as greatest of the Vaishnavas, and he is a role model of all the devotees, because he did not do that act. He did not use his anger for his benefit. He used that anger for Krishna's service.
Yes, Prabhu.
So
Okay.
everything can be engaged in Krishna service except envy. You can use lust, you can use anger, you can use greed, you can use all these vices.
Suppose Prabhuji, now like if greed,
Everything
when
here,
you say that
this kama, krodha, lobha, except
Mohammed.
this mada and moha, everything can be engaged in Krishna service except matsara, envy. Except envy, everything can be engaged. When envy comes into the picture, envy towards anything is envy towards Krishna. So you should properly understand it and then act accordingly.
Okay.
Anything else, Prabhu?
Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji. Still is there. Prabhuji, like, see, you mentioned, worshipping, one should, like, in a spiritual path, you should not worship demigods, right? Okay. But Prabhuji, suppose, like, while following in a Krishna consciousness life also, sometimes, while suppose, like, I'm going for marriage or something like that, and, they say they do the matching and all, everything is there arranged by Krishna only. But now, like they say that, okay, you have to perform this, Navagraha Puja and, do this one to eliminate this dosha and all, then you are fine. So, in that time, just performing, not like, worshipping, like, it's a kind of like you have to do it with a devotion.
So
Yeah. So
actually,
when you, yeah. So that time when you are in Krishna consciousness, you should do it, or you should not do it. That's what my question is.
see, you can do it, Prabhu. Means it is engaging like that demigods are like representatives of Krishna only. Means they are the in charges of that aspect of the creation. Like they are the controlling deities of that aspect. Means if Navagraha Puja means they are like Shani, something like, right? So it can be done, but it is not in a mood of dedicating. See, you can like just in a family, a wife can respect each and every family member, but her love should go to husband only, right?
Yes.
So in the same way, you can respect all the demigods, but your love and devotion should be towards Krishna. So you can respect all the demigods, thinking that they are the part and parcels of Krishna. They are the representatives of Krishna. But your devotion, your bhakti, and your love should be towards Krishna.
Krishna. Okay. I understood probably now. So yeah, basically, like, whatever is necessary prescribed in Vedas, we have to do it. But like, what?
Not necessarily all the time, but if you are in a situation that you must do, then you can do. If you are fully Krishna conscious, Krishna can remove everything, Prabhu. No, for
Yes,
devotee
Prabhuji.
there are.
I'm so like me, Prabhuji. Okay, see,
No,
Prabhupada, and those are like who are like
no, for
very.
suppose you go home and your
Yes.
parents say you have to perform this Navagraha Puja and all, then you should perform. You can perform, but you can perform. No, do the needful, perform that, and then just leave it. That's it. You respect them, and then just come out and chant Hare Krishna, and then be engaged in
Yeah,
Krishna devotion. That's it.
yeah.
But see,
I mean, like, even this cannot be is not necessary to do one when you are in like completely in an elevated stage, Prabhuji. Like, Prabhupada need not to do all these things.
no,
Because
Prabhupada.
Prabhupada
See,
himself is like.
Prabhupada also engaged in the temple openings. Prabhupada also performed this fire sacrifices. He invited all the brahmanas, and then the brahmanas performed these fire sacrifices for the Shanti, homas and everything. But he did for the sake of public. Otherwise, public won't take this process seriously, because public won't believe that this temple is properly inaugurated by the Vedic brahmana something in a Vedic process. So, but
Yes, Prabhuji.
by the side, there was Prabhupada said, you do Sankirtan and never stop Sankirtan until this entire this process is complete. So Prabhupada gave more importance to Sankirtan. So you're all doing all this for the sake of showing respect to your parents or showing respect to some demigods. That is needful. That should be done. But what is required, what is must is the devotion bhakti towards Krishna.
Yes, 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 Prabhuji. Yeah,
If you have that,
yeah.
then
That's what Prabhuji. I mean, like, for when he's doing it for public, this is public work. But if he's personally, if he want to do anything, like, he need not to do necessarily do Prabhuji,
yeah,
because he's
instead,
already
see,
beyond that process.
instead of wasting his time in performing all those things, he can
Yeah,
just perform bhakti, and he can chant more rounds. He can perform more bhakti
yeah,
to Krishna. That will be
yeah,
more.
yeah. I mean, but yeah, that's what one can, bypass this process, this puja, dosha, and all, by if he is really, like, highly Krishna consciousness level, he's in a highly higher level. So, but, like, people, like, who are beginner like me, or
No.
who don't know.
See,
That time.
when you are engaged in Krishna's service, then you are not obliged to any demigod, Prabhu. See, when you are
Okay.
watering the root of the plant, it is nourishing all the branches, twigs, leaves, and everything. In the same way, when you worship Krishna, means you are worshipping all the creation. Means Krishna is the root. Krishna is the Sarva Karana Karanam. He is the source of all demigods. When you worship Krishna, all the demigods are satisfied. So,
Yes,
but
yes, yes.
when your parents or somebody who has no contact to Krishna conscious thing, for them, for their sake, you can do the needful that in that place, and then get it done.
Okay. Yeah, I got you, Prabhu. I got you. Like, it all depends on the situation, and situation, and your situation, how it is, like,
So,
all the
but
financial
while after
situation, emotional
after
situation.
performing that Navagraha Shanti, then priest will ask, right? You wished, you now desire what you want. Then you desire only, I want only Krishna Bhakti, I want only Krishna service, I
Yeah.
don't want, then you desire that.
Yes. That should be the ultimate goal.
That is the ultimate goal, yes.
Yes,
Krishna Bhakti.
Prabhuji. Now, okay, sorry, Prabhuji. Go ahead. Tell.
No, that's it. You tell.
Prabhuji, so now, Prabhuji, in this 6 chapters, Prabhuji, like, we just started with the Sankhya philosophy. Like, it is like, overcome. I mean, better, like, it's less better than the karma yoga philosophy. Karma yoga. Then karma yoga is, like, a little bit, it's below the jnana yoga, or like transcendental knowledge, you're saying, and then Jnana Yoga is below the Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga is that is the highest of all the yogas. That's what the importance
as
is.
I told, when you perform Bhakti Yoga, you are performing all the lower yajnas. All the I'll show you one thing, because above Karma Kanda comes Karma Yoga. Above Karma Yoga comes Jnana Yoga. Above Jnana Yoga comes Dhyana Yoga. Above Dhyana Yoga comes Bhakti Yoga. When you are performing Bhakti Yoga, means when you are performing all those things, Karma Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, Jnana Yoga, everything. When you are performing Jnana Yoga, means you are performing Karma Yoga, and when Dhyana Yoga means when you are performing Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga. So when you perform the, like, it a subset and superset kind of thing, Prabhu. You understood, right? So it includes everything.
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes. Yeah, now I got it clear, Prabhuji. I got it. Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. Lakshman Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Prabhu,
Thank you so much.
you are clear, right, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Any questions, comments?
No, Prabhuji. No, I'm good. I'm
Okay.
good. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare
I'll
Krishna.
send. I have to make some adjustment, and I'll send out this PPT. Okay.
Okay, Prabhuji. Sure.
Okay, Prabhuji.